Minnesota. Like, I got Minnesota back at all times.
Well, Anthony Edwards said it last night, but it could be about our next guest, too. Jimmy Jam Harris, kind enough to join us via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline to talk about a bunch of stuff, including the great Minnesota get-together, the Minnesota State Fair. How are you, sir?
I'm great, man. How are you? I mean, it couldn't be better. I mean, between the State Fair and the Wolves win.
How about that?
And a bunch of stuff in between. But, man, yeah, it's a good day.
You got a lot of good stuff. You guys got a lot of good stuff going. But let's start with the State Fair announcement. You're part of the 2026 Grandstand Concert Series. I think the date is Saturday, Aug 29. You and Terry, a celebration of the Minneapolis sound for the Grandstand Concert Series. How did this all come together?
Well, we had been talking to the State Fair for a few years, but Terry and I hadn't actually started our live performances yet. But we kind of talked about that it was kind of a dream come true to play there. I mean, I grew up, playing in, obviously local bands in the Twin Cities type of thing. And we would always play little small places, and we'd always go to the fair and go to concerts and those types of things. And it was kind of a dream, kind of a bucket list thing, one of those, what haven't you done that you still want to do things. And they contacted us this year. And because we had just done, at that point in time, we had done some shows in Japan, and we had just were getting ready to do our Las Vegas residency, it just felt like the timing was right, and everything worked out. And we were able to get yeses from a lot of people that we wanted to have as part of it. And I think it just was the right alignment,
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. Can you give us a sense of some of the names and maybe in the approach that you are? I'm sure you're still thinking and planning, and there's a lot of time for you to get to that place. But give me some idea of what you guys' vision is for this thing.
Well, I think, two of the things that it kind of says, which is homecoming, which it definitely is for Terry and I always say we love a good excuse to come back home, so this is a great one. Also a celebration of the Minneapolis sound. But we also realize that all of these songs are basically made in Minnesota. So we're kind of calling it Made in Minnesota. And it's similar to what we did we just got done doing in Vegas, where it was basically, we called that Nothing But Hits. And the thing we kind of realized as we're performing all of those songs was that every one of those songs, pretty much you could say, was made in Minnesota. So I just thought that was a perfect way to frame everything. And then as far as the acts that are concerned, we've been working very closely over the last couple of years with both American Idol winner Ruben Studdard and Star Search winner Shawnice Wilson. And the reason is because they're versatile and they can basically sing everything. So in our catalog of songs, whether it's, an Alexander O'Neill or an Usher or a Johnny Gill or whatever that is, they can, Ruben can handle that. And if it's a Janet song or a Sherelle song or whatever, then, Shawnice can handle that. But in this case, we're able to actually have some of those people. So Johnny Gill will actually be there from New Edition. And, that New Edition record was actually recorded in the Twin Cities. And so to have Johnny Gill, to have Ralph Tresvant and people like that, that was really important. You can't do a show about the Minneapolis sound without including Morris Day. But in this case, it's Morris Day and Jerome Benton, who happens to be Terry's brother. And Jerome came and performed with us in Vegas, which was wonderful. It was funny because Jordan Knight from New Kids on the Block is going to join us, and we did kind of his biggest hit record back in the day, too. So it's just going to kind of be, I guess if I could say a Minnesota word, a smorgasbord of acts. And it's just going to be a lot of fun. And, yes, we're still putting it together. I mean, there's acts that have been announced, but trust me, we're still talking to a bunch of other folks. And it's just going to be a celebration. And the other thing I want to stress, in Vegas, when we did our residency, we called it Nothing But Hits. But what I pointed out to people is that Terry and I don't really make hits. We just make music. And the people that love the music and buy it, whether, in our day it's cassettes or 8-tracks or vinyl or whatever that delivery system is, it's the people that really make those hit records. So it's really a celebration of the people, and that's what we're looking forward to doing in our hometown. That's
such a great idea. Yeah, it'd be something for us to talk about and look forward to. Really, like we say, the joke on this show is the state fair is right around the corner, and that's sort of how it feels. And it'll catch up. It'll get here fast, but it's such a natural. It makes all the sense in the world. I'm glad that worked out. I know there's going to be a lot of folks who are state fair regulars are going to be very, very excited about that news. You mentioned the residency. I'm always curious to know how those things go. You did it at the Voltaire at the Venetian, right in Vegas. So how long does it go? What was that experience like? How different is it for you? How did you find it?
I found it wonderful because, it was a few things for us. One is kind of getting back to our roots of performing. I mean, we started off in local bands in Minnesota. That was the way we started. Terry had Flight Time. I had a band called Mind and Matter. And, we would battle of the bands type of thing, and we eventually joined forces, and that became the time. But it kind of takes us back to our roots of doing that, which we really like, which is performing. I mean, before we were writers and producers, we were just musicians. And one of the fun things about Vegas for me was watching how much fun Terry was having, because he just said, hey, I just get to be a bass player now. I don't have to worry about all the other stuff. So it was a lot of fun. We did 6 nights in Vegas. We were at capacity all of the nights. Wow. We actually sold out the last 3 totally. And now there's some talk about matter of fact, I read in one of the Vegas papers recently that there's talks about adding 10 more shows to what we just did, maybe in August. So, we'll see. It was a great experience. And, there were some people literally that came to all 6 shows. Man. Like we would look in the audience and it would be the same people that came to all 6 shows. And we would switch the shows up every once in a while to see who came. Like Ann Nesby from Sounds of Blackness came one of the days. Shantae Moore came one of the days. I'm trying to think. Lettucey came one of the days. St. Paul from The Family came one of the days, which was very cool. And so anyway, we had different guests every night that would come out, and it would switch the show up. And I even go back and do a little DJ set, which is kind of cool because that's one of the other things I did in Minneapolis was I was a DJ. And that's how I got the name Jimmy Jam, that was my DJ name. So it was kind of, once again, a smorgasbord of a whole bunch of different things. But the concept worked so well that we're going to bring a lot of those elements to what we do at the State Fair.
What's the venue like?
In Vegas?
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's about 1,000 seats. It's very elegant. It's very elevated. There's not a bad seat in the house, which is great. There's kind of what was interesting is there's this long kind of runway, I guess you could say, that goes to the center of the place. And it was kind of cool because what we had Roland, the company Roland built us this little tiny grand piano that they could set on the stage. And then we would basically name that tune. We'd take audience requests. We'd do this whole thing. So we really were able to utilize the whole theater. And then Ruben Studdard and Shanice Wilson, they would go out in the audience and actually sing songs from the audience type of thing. So it was very inclusive, I guess I would say. I don't think anybody from wherever you were sitting felt like they had a bad seat. And so it was intimate enough, like I say, 1,000 people, intimate enough to feel like you were really getting, a good experience, but energetic enough where when everybody got on their feet, it was just an all-out party. Yeah,
it sounds like the best, kind of like you say, the best of both worlds, where you don't feel like you're in a huge arena, but still, decent sized and good, good atmosphere in that environment. And I'm assuming the music sounds better too. It can be.
We got so many compliments on the sound.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the things everybody, afterwards, people we saw afterwards were complimenting the sound. And, we have a good crew of folks that really do that and really pay attention to that. And I'm a little biased, but I think we perform the songs, as well, if not better than the artists that would normally perform them because we know all the secrets that went into the production of it. Right. We know how it's actually supposed to sound. And we're really very diligent about doing the songs the way they were on the record. I think that people want to sing along. They want to have those memories. They want to take the time travel. And we want to make it in a way where it's familiar. It sounds great. We'll switch a few things up, but we want to get everybody on the same page. So that was one of the things we were able to do.
And you and Terry are back at the top of the R&B charts. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we just worked with Kehlani on her album, and it was very cool because her single, she had a single called Folded last year that actually won a couple of Grammys, and I got a chance to actually give her the Grammys. It happened on the what they call the premiere telecast. It happens before the network show, and I got to hand her 2 R&B Grammys, and we ended up getting a chance to actually work together on her album, which is her self-titled album. It's just called Kehlani, and it's #1 on the R&B charts this week. And we did a song with her and Brandy together, and they never had worked together. But Kehlani wanted to do something with Brandy, and the song that they ended up doing was, Terry and My Song.
That's not bad. Yeah.
Very, very kind of cool. And a couple of weeks ago, we had the #1 R&B single with a gentleman named Tank, and Tank had a #1 song called Control, but it was based on Janet's Control, which is 40 years old this year. So a lot of interesting alignment going on.
Do you still, the assumption I have always had is that more people want to work with you than you could possibly work with from a scheduling standpoint. Is that about right? Do you have to turn people down sometimes?
Well, we turn people down, but it's more of a thing. The way I always look at it is if we feel like it's a project that we should do or that we are the best people to do the project, we're totally into doing the project. And so a lot of times if we say no to something, it's simply, it's never a straight no. It's always I don't know whether we're the right people for it, but who would be good would be, and then we turn them on to someone else. So we've done that a lot of times. The other thing is, I think, and we might have talked about it before, is Terry and I have a theory which is called getting past old. And it's kind of like when you have an old phone or you have an old car, or you have something, and it basically gets old, which means it gets discarded and, that kind of thing. Well, Terry and my old period happened when our kids were both in high school. Our last, batch of kids were in high school. So we got a chance when our phone wasn't totally ringing off the hook. We got a chance to, go to basketball games, go to dance recitals, and do that and really be a part of our kids' lives. When our kids graduated, that's when we did the Unbreakable album with Janet, which opened at #1. And all of a sudden now, with this resurgence of 80s and 90s music, people come to us, like the singer Her a few years back. We performed on the Grammys with her, but she wanted that 90s sound, and she sampled a song called Making Love in the Rain by Herb Alpert, and couldn't get the sample cleared, so we ended up replaying the song because we know how to play it, and it ended up going #1. And so what happens is all of a sudden that old watch or that old whatever you put in, old phone or whatever, all of a sudden becomes vintage. It's still old, but it's just nicer words go with it. Vintage and legendary and iconic and all that. So those are the things that are associated with us now as people try to create the 90s vibe like Kehlani. It's we're the people to come to.
That's not bad. I'm also reminded that New York Times magazine just had a piece laying out their list of the 30 greatest songwriters, and you guys are on that list too. And you've won myriad awards, but I assume you guys had to derive some satisfaction from being on that list and the nice things that were said, were written, I should say, on your behalf.
Yeah, that was very cool. Well, first of all, it's great company to be in. And it's funny because we were just with Stevie Wonder a few days ago because we're working on a Gamble Huff and Tom Bell documentary.
That's right.
And we're directing that. And so we had Stevie in as a thing, and that was one of the things he said. He said, "Hey, we're in the same club here." And I say, "Yeah." But it's the 30 greatest living American songwriters is the way I think they term it or something like that. And, there's a lot of debate on whether you should be in, whether you should be out, whatever that thing is. What I like is there's a conversation being had about songwriters, because I think in the whole music ecosystem, the songwriters are the ones that, for better or worse, they suffer the most because, if you're a live act, you can go out and perform like we're doing now. If you're producers, you get, your royalties from production and from streaming and all those types of things. But you can also... if you're an artist, obviously you can still go out and do live shows and get endorsements and partnerships and all those types of things. If you're the songwriter, basically you're dependent totally on the royalties. And the way in the streaming economy, the royalties are really, really low. And so I think it's an important conversation to have just to remember the songwriters. My analogy is always that they're like the farmers. You know, if you go have a great meal at a restaurant, you thank the chef, and the chef says, yeah, that's great. But nobody thanks the farmers who had to actually grow the food in order for the chefs to be able to do what they do. So I think it's an important thing. I think it's a great discussion to have, whether you agree with us being there or not, that songwriters are really important, and without the songwriters, there are no songs. It's as simple as that.
It should never be forgotten. It's an important lesson. You're 100% right. I like the way one of the writers put it. They're talking about your time with Janet. I wanted to get your reaction if you agreed with the description here. 3 different albums, 3 different ideologies. Many pop stars would go songwriter-producer shopping for such rebrands, but it's a testament to the flexibility of Jam and Lewis that Janet could invent so many new selves in their care. Stylistic swings came easily to the producing pair. How conscious were you of that then? You know, basically revealing, I guess, different sides of her, and how challenging is that to do it when I'm assuming all the record companies say, hey, just do like that last one. Do another Control and we'll be happy. How did that go? What do you, when you look back on all that?
Well, yeah, I mean, the record companies are really good at taking something that's already done and then going, just do another one of those.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we never did that, and we didn't do that really with any of the artists. That really never was our interest in doing that. I will tell you about a conversation that I had with a gentleman named Peter Asher, and he's been associated with the Beatles and a whole lot of great UK producer, songwriter and everything. So Peter Asher did all the Linda Ronstadt albums. And when I say all of them, he did all of the albums. And I remember sitting behind him at the Grammys. Terry and I were nominated. And I said, Mr. Asher, I said, I'm Jimmy Jam. He says, yes, I know who you are. And I said, it's nice to meet you. I said, can I ask you a question? And he said, yes. And I said, you've been working with Linda Ronstadt for like 20 years. And I said, she's done country albums, rock albums, orchestral albums, Spanish language albums. Like, she's done the whole gamut. I said, how do you do that longevity? Like, how does that work? And I can't remember exactly what he said, so I'm paraphrasing a little bit. But he basically said, artists like to go all over the whole road. He said, you just need to be the guardrails on each side to just kind of nudge them back into the thing. But let them do what they want to do. And I took that advice, and we've been working. It's the 40th anniversary of Control this year. So we've been working with Janet for 40 years. And that advice that Peter Asher said to us was when Janet would come to us and say, hey, I want to work with an opera singer. I want to work with an electric violinist. I want to work with Chuck D from Public Enemy. We never were like, oh, that's crazy. We were like, okay, let's figure out how to do it. So it's basically just problem solving. And Janet's not a problem. So it's her creativity actually made it really easy for us to go from, a pop smash to a R&B record to all of the things that she wanted to do. And we had the great environment of Minnesota, particularly on those first 3 Janet albums that we did, Control, Rhythm Nation, and the Janet album, were pretty much recorded solely in Minneapolis. So we had freedom of Minneapolis, and she had the freedom of Minneapolis where she could move around in a way where she didn't have to have bodyguards. She didn't have to do all that. And I think all of that played into it.
No question about that. We're chatting with Jimmy Jam Harris on a number of different subjects. And we'll give you some information, remind you that tickets are already on sale, by the way, for their big appearance at the State Fair. We'll give you details on that in a minute. I think we were chatting with Micah Nori, the Wolves lead assistant from San Antonio after their victory last night. You obviously continue to follow your favorite professional basketball team as well. Give me a sense of what you see or have seen from afar in kind of a strange season again, where there was great frustration that they were back in the 6th seed and that they weren't taking the season seriously enough. And then they take care of business against Denver, almost going away, despite the fact that they're down, for the game 6, their three main wing players are not even available. And then they win game 1 in San Antonio. What are you seeing? What do you think?
I just see a sense of belief and a sense of calmness. I think it starts with the coach. But it's guys that, I don't know, they seem very even keel. They don't seem to get down on themselves when things are going bad, and they don't seem to really get, super up on themselves when things are going good. I mean, because there were losing streaks, there were winning streaks during the season. The fact that the roster had to change so much because of injury, And by the way, that has to happen with a lot of teams. I mean, where they change things. But what it does is it gives the guys, they always say the next man up. Well, the next man up has gotten opportunities to actually get some meaningful minutes in meaningful games. And now when you look at the team, it's not just a 7-man rotation. It really wasn't through the whole season because it couldn't be, but it's really not now. And so you have guys that are involved, and I think the coaching staff does a great job of making sure guys are prepared, and they're prepared for the moment when they come in the game. And sometimes, when you come in the game, it's not that you have to play, 20 minutes of great basketball, but you just need to get that one rebound or make that one pass or set that one screen. Sometimes it just comes down to one fundamental thing, and I think the Wolves have done a great job of doing that. They didn't get too high, too low in that game. They did panic in the fourth quarter of that game after they had the lead. It looked like the game was pretty much done.
Yeah.
And then, Ant has a turnover or whatever. But even he was like, I got to improve on what it is. And I think that's the attitude that the whole team has to have, and I think it starts with the coaching staff.
How important do you think, KG has started the reunion period, and he was already back for one game, got a massive reaction. How you know him as well as anybody, better than most, obviously. How important was it, do you think, from his standpoint, to get sort of epoxied with the franchise he grew up with?
I think it was really important because, if you know anything about KG, loyalty is the capital L in what he is. And he was loyal to the Wolves beyond the fault. And leaving, when he left to go to Boston, it was one of the hardest things for him to do, even though it was the best thing for him to do, I think, at that point in time. So the fact that he's back, and he always roots for the team. I remember a couple of years ago when his daughter had her Sweet 16 party, I remember he did this, big party for her Sweet 16, but then he had this little room tucked in the back where everybody could watch the game. And it was, him and me and Paul Pierce and a few other people. And he was just on his feet, just cheering for it was when I think we were playing Denver, if I'm not mistaken, at that point. So playoffs. So, he's really into it, and I'm glad to see it. I'm glad that, whatever wounds are, have happened are being healed. And obviously the new ownership has a lot to do with that. But yeah, I think it's a total positive thing. And KG he's a Wolf for life. I mean, he's Soda for life. He really is.
One last music question that occurred to me. You mentioned that you just had Stevie Wonder in for interviews for this doc you're doing, the Gamble and Huff documentary. Mm-hmm. I don't know how the process is for you guys. Like, you have been around, superstar, abundant talent for decades now. I mean, you're in it. You're immersed in it in a way that once upon a time might have seemed like a dream. But what I wonder is, when you're sitting down with Stevie and you're talking to him, are you still amazed? Do you guys ever look at each other and go, how did this happen? Look at who we're talking to. This is music immortality, or does it almost become old hat?
No, it absolutely never becomes old hat. It's always pinch yourself type moments. Like the fact that Stevie even knows who we are, will actually take a phone call from us, or say, yes, I want to do it. I mean, I remember we called him because we had booked 3 days in L.A. to do some filming for the documentary. And we had Raphael Sadiq the first day. We had Nile Rodgers the second day. The whole day for Stevie, we said we won't even book anybody on the Friday. We'll just make sure that Stevie's whenever he's available. And I think he initially said 1:30. I think he ended up, Terry had the over-under at 6 o'clock or something, or 5 o'clock or whatever. Terry said, we'll bet the over. And at 5:30, Stevie showed up. But he not only showed up, he showed up with his, I can't remember what his little instrument is that he plays, the stringed instrument. I never can remember the name of it. But he showed up with that. And as we're listening to these Gamble and Huff and Tom Bell songs, he's literally playing along with these songs and reminiscing about, getting to know them and those types of things. And yes, it's a pinch me moment for us, but the crew, it was really a pinch me moment for them because they were all watching the interview as it was taking place. And so it was just, there's a lot of that. But I feel like that. Here's the way I think every day, Dan. About 5 times a day, I take a snapshot of what I'm doing. if I'm with the people I want to be with doing what I want to do, then I'm in the right place. If I take that snapshot, and maybe 4 out of 5 times of the day I'm good, that one day I take that, one time I take the snapshot, I'm like, this is not where I should be with doing what I'm doing. And then I move on to some other thing. So I've gotten really good at that. And I will tell you that I'm a 4 out of 5 most of those days. That's one of those. Yeah. Talking to you right now about the State Fair and all the great things that are going on is definitely one of those moments.
Well, we appreciate your contributions for us and help to us all these years, too, man. You know that goes on forever, and we'll certainly try to be badgering you in all the good ways when we get to State Fair time to try to get you out, maybe even to the booth if at all possible. Since, as you know, we broadcast from there. You used to visit. In fact, when Chad and I did broadcast from back in the day, yeah.
Yeah, I know. No, I love that. I mean, I'm a Minnesota State Fair goer from my dad. My mom and dad would take me to the fair from when I was a little boy, and I just remember wanting to get to the Midway, and they'd make me go through everything else, Machinery Hill, and you got to go to this, and 4-H building, and the whatever. I mean, it was be like, can we just get to the Midway? So, I subjected my kids to the same thing when we lived there. So, I totally understand that. By the way, my dad just turned 99.
99.
99. I came back and played with him a couple weeks ago. So I just was back there.
Just crazy. That's outstanding.
Yeah.
Let's remind folks again. You and Terry will be at the State Fair performing Homecoming, a celebration of the Minneapolis Sound for the Grandstand Concert Series. Guardsy reminds me that tickets will go on sale this Friday, and you can get them via mnstatefair.org/grandstand. This Friday is when the whole thing begins. Great to catch up, my friend. If you need anything, let us know. Anything we can talk about that you think might be worthy of our audience, always have time for you on this program, and we'll try to stay in touch as always.
I appreciate it, Dan.
Thank you. That's Jimmy Jam Harris. Outstanding work and a great conversation with him, as it often is. Let's make this the bottom of the hour pause. Louis in about 1 hour on the big Minnesota Wild goaltending change, his reaction to that, chances for the team to rebound tonight, a game that, of course, can be heard on the Fan. Louis at 5:30. So no Ballstead in net tonight. We're back to the Gus Bus. The goaltender a change announced earlier today. That'll be a big part of the conversation with Lou Nanne. Wild needing to win tonight to avoid coming back home down 2-0, and I get it. What you're supposed to do is hold serve, so to speak. I'm not here to declare the series over if the Wild don't lose or do not win tonight. But I also think what we've tended to learn about these series is that you can't necessarily count on winning every game at home anyway. And that's why I think things are going to feel a lot differently if the Wild are able to return home with a split than if they get down 2-0. Now, always the devil's in the details. Much of our reaction might depend on how they lose or how they win, right? Are they routed? Are they dominated? Are they not even a factor? And, of course, the worst-case scenario would be that the Lance scores 7 more goals tonight, or 8 or 9, even with the goaltender change, and then you're back to, well, is Flower available? Could we maybe get Flower for Game 3?
He's still around.
I think he is. Can we activate him? Can we sign him?
Question about the 8 or 9 goals. What if one's an empty netter?
Well, that was the comeback from Heinze yesterday. This is from 612 guy. I'm enjoying the Jimmy Jam interview. Janet Jackson on Letterman's show made me question my sexuality for a minute, but the fellas won out. She made Dave squirm like no other woman could. Yeah,
I don't remember that.
I don't either, to be honest with you. I have no recollection.
I only remember drunk Drew Barrymore. That was one of the mythical ones, right?
That was one of the mythical moments.
Didn't Madonna have a be one, too? Where she was swearing?
Was Drew the one who got up on the desk and started dancing, and then she
exposed
her front,
her chest
to Mr. Letterman?
Yes.
But I don't remember. I don't doubt that might be today. The case. In all honesty, though, how good is it to be these guys? Because to a certain extent, you think, all right, well, you associate them mainly with Janet Jackson, and that's big enough. It's like you don't need to do anything else, but that feels like a long time ago. But they've reinvented, Jimmy and Terry have reinvented themselves as record producers and now performers many times over. And now you could argue they're as big now as they've ever been. I mean, you're doing residencies at Vegas.
Venetian's nice.
That's what everybody says. You're still spinning out number one hits on the R&B charts. You're still working with people. You're doing documentaries. You're being celebrated by New York Times on this list of the 30 best American living songwriters. I mean, that's all pretty good. If this is like their twilight years, like that's not bad at all. That would be that'd be everybody else's prime.
He really had the perfect description for it, though. That eventually old becomes vintage.
That's it.
And there's a big difference between old and vintage, and we see it all the time.
That's exactly right.
And we are in the vintage era right now.
Yes.
People like Lori Fisher are tripping all over themselves to get the 1987 World Series champion Twins sweatshirt.
Think about it.
An original one or one that just looks like it, right? These companies are making vintage style clothing because that's what everybody's into. At least they were. Maybe that phase is over, but old and vintage are kind of the same, but very, very different. And I loved that description of it when he talked about Terry and him.
If you can make a phone call and not have to go through like 18 layers of bureaucracy, and Stevie Wonder comes to the phone and then shows up,
pretty good
for the interview. It's like, man, that's pretty damn good for sure. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is open at 64686. His dad, what did he say? Just turned 99.
Yes.
Cornbread, 99. We had some texters saying they love seeing his dad.
Because he's still playing.
He's still playing,
and
they had their big, sort of reunion, emotional reunion after a significant falling out for many, 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 many years too. And it is not difficult when I go to Target Center to think of the days. Speaking of vintage, they don't feel old; they do feel vintage. Of when it was Jimmy and his wife, and I think Terry was there a decent amount, but Jimmy was there all the time. Literally right next, I mean, the 50-yard line, basically. Center court.
Yep.
The two best seats in the house, basically. And that's where he was forever. And, I do think back and go, God, it's too bad to that extent that they don't still base themselves here, because this run has been obviously like no run that they were able to participate in back in the day, right? I mean, the KG run was 1 year, right? Other than, a lot of good regular season records. And now it's every year they're a factor.
Yeah.
The Wolves are a factor. They haven't won any championships yet, but they're at least a factor.
However, he was a part of, I think he went to Game 7 in Denver a few years ago. I think the Timberwolves.
That's true.
I think
You're right.
Ryan Tanky and Ethan Casson, the old management team.
Yes.
They were smart enough.
And he's come back for some games.
Yeah.
We've talked to him on those occasions.
I feel like he sat next to Snoop at one of them.
He did.
He brought Snoop to the game.
He did.
Because it was funny, right after the interview in his show, the Snoop concert at Treasure Island, which is, I think, Labor Day weekend as well, or right around there, that commercial played. And I'm like, I wonder how well Snoop and Jimmy know each other. Well, they sat next to each other at a Wolves playoff game.
That's the other thing. I mean, we could do, and we maybe one of these times we have him on is just do a show where I just get a list of about 20 performers and just have him riff on his experiences or knowledge of them, or either working with them or just observing their own place. That would be, in and of itself, that'd be a great hour. Maybe sometime this summer, before the fair, but after the Wolves have wrapped up the NBA title, the Wild have wrapped up the Cup, and the Twins are in last place, and we're looking for, it's the abyss, and we're looking for something else to talk about.
Two easy options. We do it the day after he plays at the Timberwolves parade.
Yeah. There you go.
Because he'll be in town.
That's true.
Or the day or two before they do the show at the State Fair, he comes out to the State Fair and does it there. That'd be a great State Fair hour.
That would be outstanding as well.
That'd be a perfect State Fair hour.
Let's get caught up. We went long with Jimmy, so let's get caught up. We have Top 5 at 5 yet to come. We got Louie at 5:30 with goaltender change reaction, and maybe more general reaction beyond that to what he saw in game number one. I want to get back to one aspect of the Wolves' victory in game one that we've talked a lot about with Micah Nori, but is sneaky big that I think indicates a bit of a media blindness that needs to be revealed, exposed, and maybe even ripped. We'll get to that when we return. I think in the basketball culture, an unnatural fear and trepidation of being on the wrong end of a blocked shot. And by that I mean, it's almost as if when said shot is blocked by one of, let's say, your players, it feels as if there's an embarrassment that's supposed to be attached to, oh man, he just swatted that rat out of it. He just nullified that shot. And I bring it up because I think it's directly connected to game one of the Wolves-Spurs series and perhaps much of the rest of it as well. Among my media brethren, I sometimes get the impression like, well, stop being stupid and driving to the basket knowing that Wembanyama is going to erase it. Now, I'm not here to tell you that that discretion occasionally is not the greater form of valor. Yeah, you have to try to be smart with it. But I think we have to get over this notion, and thank God the Wolves did, that if you get your shot blocked, you don't want to go back there because you'll be embarrassed again. You can't worry about being embarrassed. And in our business, the media business, I think it's bizarre, but that's what I've heard a lot of today. Like, well, you got 2 shots blocked in the first minute of the game, almost like, well, the Wolves should have gone home at that point.
Right.
No, what you continue to do is challenge. Now, again, do you challenge judiciously? Do you try to challenge smartly? There's a lot of ways to look at that, but I think it's the exact opposite of what some of these national media folks are saying, which almost seems to be, don't even ever bother. And thank God that wasn't the message that Finchie and Micah Nori and the staff delivered to the team. As we talked about with Micah between 3:30 and 4 o'clock, it was, no, you keep going after it. I mentioned the quote from Jaden after the game. It was my favorite quote to come out of the game last night. You just got to act like he's not there. I mean, he's going to get blocks. He's the tallest person in the world. Just keep consistently attacking him. Sometimes he might not be there. Sometimes he might catch you, but just keep going. They did. They got 52 points in the paint.
Yes.
And that tells me they don't give a damn about an occasional shot being swatted out of the air. Because if you play that game out of the fear, it's almost like it's that 2026 mentality of, oh, did you see how embarrassed that guy should be when somebody so-and-so dunked over him?
Right.
Like, at that point, that matters more than going out and winning the game. We're so imprisoned by these stupid viral images and to the point where I don't even think there's anything smart about the approach that people almost seem to be saying, well, that's what you don't even try. Don't even try because you'll end up on the wrong side of that picture. Wembanyama is going to swat it into the third row and then you're going to be embarrassed by it. Is it really all that embarrassing to have your shot blocked by a 7'6" guy?
No,
it's the opposite of that. And I loved that they said, we are going to challenge. We are going to continue to try to get to the basket. Now, if you do it strategically and rightly, you try to do it when maybe the big man is otherwise occupied or, as was the case a couple times, sealed off by Julius Randle.
Yes.
That's the smart way to do it. But this idea that you almost have to apologize and you can't, learn your Wolves, learn your lesson. He's just going to embarrass you. That would have guaranteed the Wolves lost game one. And they still may lose the series. Sure. I'm not here declaring that the series is over, although I very much now think they're absolutely in it and can win it on the basis of what we saw in game one. But you know the vibe I'm talking about?
100%. And I was going to say, your national media spirit animal needs to be Windy, Brian Windhorst, because I was watching Get Up, as I'm wont to do, after the Power Trip morning show stream, 8 to 9. I watched the replay of Get Up, and everyone was aroused by the Wemby blocks, as you should be. There was 12 of them, right?
Yes.
It was
set the record.
He was dominant on that side.
NBA playoff record, modern record.
Windy was the one that said, on 5 of those, the Wolves got the ball back.
I mentioned that to Micah. Yes.
And you made the shots, blah, blah, blah. And on the one where everybody was going crazy, I can't remember who it was, if it was Shannon or Randall, maybe the biggest play of the game, it gets swatted off the glass. It's emphatic. Jaden McDaniels gets it, drives it, kicks it to Mike Conley, 3-pointer, Wolves up 9, timeout San Antonio Davy. And that, you could argue, is your ball game.
Yeah.
And great effort play by Jaden, by the way, because if he doesn't get it, it's a fast break the other way. And then that block is the lead was 6. It turns to 4 on a fast break dunk. It's probably timeout Wolves at that point. But I know exactly what you're talking about. And we haven't talked about this part of the game, but in one thing, I just think Finch and whoever decided it, they have cojones to do it, and it won him the game, in my opinion, was taking Rudy off the floor.
Yes.
Because
extended period.
And that can't be easy because you need him to guard Wemby. And he just had
a mythic series.
Yes. But Wemby was not, as you would expect, guarding him at all. He was just floating around and looking to block anything. And they took him off the floor. They put Naz in. They put Naz in the corner. Wemby didn't go out there at least once. Naz hit a huge 3 in the corner right in front of the Wolves bench where Wemby was his guy because he was looking to block a shot. And then the next time Jaden drove, Wemby couldn't really help.
Exactly right.
And Jaden ended up getting fouled. Now, it was the Wolves, so he probably missed one of them last night, the free throws. But that's the point. I thought that move.
12 for 21 from the floor.
It was crazy.
From the free throw line.
But to take Rudy off the floor because he's just offensively meaningless, especially with Wemby. And Wemby could just leave him and do whatever he wanted. When they put Naz in there, it gave him the space in that fourth quarter. That group played a little bit faster. But that goes back to using their big advantage against them. That Wemby wants to block everything. He's in the lane. Well, we're going to put Naz Reid there. And credit to him. He knocked down a couple of huge shots, and that gave them the cushion.
The block shot is it's an imposing play. It's an important play in terms of what it represents. I'm not here to minimize it, but you can't play worried about being embarrassed. And the message shouldn't be, we got to back off, to pull up, take a jump shot. Well, yeah, sometimes that does make sense mid-range, but not all the time. And I think, again, they won the battle last night in that they ended up with 52 points in the paint. I'll tell you this. For all of the discussion about the historic nature of the 12 block shots, Wolves are going to be fine if the rest of this series, Wemby finishes with more block shots than points, as he did last night.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, he's probably never going to shoot as poorly as he did last night, but he finished with 12 blocks and 11 points. That's a winning formula for the Minnesota Timberwolves for sure.
And if he wants to take 8 threes, have at it.
Yeah, that's another
I know
thing.
he can make it, but
we'll get back into that maybe during the top 5. Another one of the comments Micah made that I think is sneaky, insightful regarding the Wolves' strategy on Wemby and on almost making it seem like it's another example of, like with Joker, we want to make him really work hard in minutes that he is flat out not accustomed to playing. Big change between the regular season and the postseason. Top 5 will include what else?
Twins are back in action. Everybody's excited about that. We will talk more Timberwolves and hear from the head coach, John Hines, on why they're making the goalie move tonight before Game 2.